You wake up and you can't move. Not because you're paralyzed, because there's a lid 3 inches from your face. The air smells like pine and soil. It's completely dark. Your arms can't fully extend. You push up and nothing happens. You push harder. Nothing. And the moment your brain registers what's happened, something switches on inside you that you cannot turn off. This is not a thought experiment. This happened to real people, and for 2 centuries it happened often enough that it terrified an entire civilization. The question isn't whether it's possible. We know it is. The question is what your body actually does, minute by minute, from the second the dirt hits the lid. Let's start there. The average wooden coffin holds roughly 800 cubic inches of air. That sounds like a lot. It isn't. At rest, a human body consumes about a liter of oxygen per minute. Do the math and you have somewhere between 5 and 6 hours before the oxygen is gone. But here's the thing, you are not going to rest. The moment you realize where you are, your body floods with adrenaline, your heart rate doubles, your breathing goes ragged and fast, and that panicked breathing is burning through your oxygen supply 2, maybe 3 times faster than normal. Your 5 hours just became 2, maybe less. Meanwhile, something else is building. Every breath you exhale leaves carbon dioxide behind. In an open room, it disperses. In a coffin, it doesn't go anywhere. CO2 starts accumulating within the first few minutes, and your brain is exquisitely sensitive to it. At around 3%, you feel dizzy, disoriented, like you're drunk, and suffocating at the same time. At 5%, the panic becomes chemical, not just psychological. Your body forces you to breathe faster, regardless of what your mind wants. You cannot choose to calm down. The gas won't let you. In the 1800s, this fear was not irrational. It was documented. Cholera epidemics swept through Europe so fast that doctors buried people before they were certain they were dead. In Germany, Bavaria, and France, reports surfaced of coffins being exhumed months later showing scratch marks on the inside of the lid. Fingernails worn to the quick. Bodies repositioned. In 1896, a physician named J.C. Ousley estimated that around 2,700 people were buried alive every year in England and America combined. That number was probably exaggerated, but it wasn't invented. The fear became so widespread that an entire industry emerged to solve it. Safety coffins. In 1868, an inventor named Franz Vester patented a coffin with a tube running up through the soil to the surface and a bell attached to a string inside. If you woke up, you rang the bell, someone would come. The term graveyard shift, workers hired to sit in cemeteries at night and listen for those bells, may have come directly from this era. People wrote it into their wills. Surgeons were instructed to cut the hearts out of their corpses before burial to confirm death. Edgar Allan Poe, who was pathologically terrified of this, wrote an entire story about it. He wasn't being dramatic. He was writing for an audience that checked their pulse before going to sleep. But the most documented case isn't from a horror story. It happened in France in 1937. A 19-year-old named Angelo Hayes crashed his motorcycle and was thrown headfirst into a wall. The local doctor couldn't detect a pulse. He was buried 2 days later. 3 days after that, an insurance investigator had the body exhumed Angelo Hayes for routine fraud checks. He was in a deep coma, but alive. His head injury had caused his body to fall into such a profound unconscious state that his metabolism had slowed nearly to a stop. He was consuming almost no oxygen. He had survived 3 days underground, not because he was strong, but because his body had essentially shut down. He lived to be 88 years old. Wider Mundem, back in the coffin. Around the 90-minute mark, if you're panicking, the CO2 has climbed past the point of reason. Your vision is blurring. Your thoughts are fragmenting. You cannot hold a single idea together. The hypercapnia, that's the medical term for CO2 poisoning, starts mimicking the feeling of being crushed, even though nothing is touching you. Your body tells you the walls are closing in. They aren't. They were always this close. At some point, you stop fighting, not from resignation, from biology. Oxygen deprivation causes the brain to begin shutting down non-essential processes first. Rational thought goes early, then fine motor control. The panic doesn't end dramatically. It dissolves. Your thoughts become slow and strange, almost dreamlike, which is why some survivors of near suffocation describe their final moments as oddly peaceful. The brain, starved of oxygen, starts releasing chemicals that feel like sedation. It's the same mechanism that makes people found after avalanches sometimes say they felt calm at the end. Your body has an emergency shutoff. It uses it. What's disturbing is how close this still is. Modern burial protocols in most countries require a death certificate from a physician. But in disaster zones, remote regions, conflict areas, corners of the world where infrastructure collapses, the margin tightens, and the medical conditions that can mimic death closely enough to fool a doctor are still real. Catalepsy, severe hypothermia, certain drug overdoses. In 2014, a woman in Mississippi was found alive in a body bag at a funeral home 92 minutes after being declared dead. In 2015, a man in South Africa woke up in a morgue refrigerator. This is not ancient history. This is a Tuesday. The thing is, every single instinct your body runs when it wakes up in that box, the adrenaline, the panic breathing, the animal need to tear through whatever is in front of you, is the exact right instinct for almost every other threat you could face. It works against predators. It works against drowning. It works against fire. The coffin is the one scenario where every survival mechanism you have makes your situation worse faster. You burn the air quicker. You exhaust yourself against a lid you cannot move. The very thing your body is built to do is the thing that kills you. 3 inches of pine, 6 hours of air, and a brain that cannot help but panic. That's all it takes.